Hallo YouTube, herzlich willkommen zurück zu Our Life Beginnings and Always. Wir machen heute weiter mit den Momenten. Wir machen heute weiter mit hier Reflection. Das ist ein Moment des DLCs. Und ja, ich hoffe, ihr seid genauso aufgeregt wie ich. Ich bin immer aufgeregt. Vorm Inhalt und vorm Vorlesen. So, Schluck Kaffee. Kalter Kaffee. Aber ja, ich würde sagen, wir verlieren keine Zeit. Und starten auch direkt. So, auf geht's. Chat ist auch übrigens wieder am Start. Ne? Chat ist immer am Start. Nur halt nicht sichtbar. So, dann geht's los. Hui. Okay. After finishing breakfast at the Holden's house, you and Cove had retreated to his room to relax before starting the day in earnest. Or perhaps you would take it easy for the whole afternoon. Neither of you had plans exactly, so you were free to do whatever came to mind. You were leaning against Cove on his bed. You fiddled with a Rubik's Cube Cove had around. You stood watching Cove's fish swim idly around their tank. You sat next to Cove on the bed, toying with his hair. You sat on the ground, doodling pictures in the sand scattered across the floor. You were leaning against Cove on his bed. Hallo. Wenn wir gerade eben gegessen haben, dann sind wir jetzt gerade ein bisschen finished mit uns selbst, ja? Wir sind im Foodkoma. You'd snuggled close to his side, comforted by his warmth. It was so nice there that you had to fend off the urge to doze off. Perfect. Cove lounged in a similarly eased manner. He had his phone open and was idly scrolling through something on it as you enjoyed one another's presence nearby. A burst of laughter broke the silence, hooking your attention and bringing you back to the present. You looked at Cove for an explanation. His eyes, now crinkled with mirth, were still locked on his screen. What's so funny? Der guckt immer so. So guckt er immer. He finally looked up at you, smirking. Dad scanned some old photos, you know. He drew a rectangle in the air with the phone-free hand. Printed out ones back from when I was little. He texted it all to me last night, I guess. I've been checking them out. You were looking at your kitty photos and didn't tell me. Can I see? That's cool. You smiled. That sounded nice. You sat up wide-eyed and hopeful. You wanted to see. Hallo? Du hast mir nichts gesagt? Theoretisch gesehen haben wir mehr Zeit unseres Lebens miteinander verbracht als nicht. Just saying. Just saying. Und Nabek, danke für 3 hintereinander geschaute Streams. Ui. Jetzt habe ich irgendwas gedrückt. Ah, nee, doch nicht. Aber danke. So. You were looking at your kitty photos and didn't tell me? Hello? Cove narrowed his eyes, smile still bent. I was gonna show you. I just wanted to look at it first to make sure there was nothing super embarrassing. You never know with my dad. Meinst du die typischen... well. Und Björni, hallöchen, guten Morgen, wie geht's dir? Bereits überzogene Pause. Eieiei, dann zurück an die Arbeit, du musst nicht mehr lang. Hoffe, euch geht es gut. Yes, mir geht's sehr gut. Jenny benutzt verbotene Wörter. Das war keine Absicht. Manchmal denke ich halt nicht nach. Da kann ich doch nichts für. So, ja, well, okay. Ja. He grimaced, envisaging what auras his dad might unwittingly spring on him. I mean... Siehst du, what if there's a photo of me getting potty trained or something? Genau das meine ich. So, ei, Kapitänin, ich gehe zurück an die Arbeit. Alles klar. Und Leolo, guten Morgen, wie geht's dir? Warum? Sass. Warum? Warum? You suppressed an empathetic shudder and nodded. You laughed at Cove's fraud expression. Kid pictures are supposed to be embarrassing. That's part of the fun. Well, ja, kommt hin. Aber, ich meine, früher oder später werden die sich ja sowieso sehen, ne? So, Butter bei die Fische. Ne? Also. Aber so. You laughed at Cove's fraud expression. Yeah, that sounds like something your dad would do. Cove only cleared his throat nervously, the fear of his dad's well-meaning actions still looming large in his mind. Anyway, before we forget, I was laughing because I came across a Halloween one from when I was 8, the year I was a zombie, remember? Do you remember? Na, 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 September. Ging das so, das Lied? Und Bauer Fredle? Korrigiert mich, wenn ich irgendwas falsch ausspreche, ne? Aber Hallöchen, herzlich willkommen im Chat. Ich hoffe, dir geht es gut. Servus. Warum? Warum lachen? Was tun Sachen? Warum lachen? He shook his head, grinning wryly, while holding the phone out to you. Das E ist lang gesprochen. Fredle? Süß. Was ist das denn? Aber kannst du mich Freddy nennen? Okay, dann sage ich Freddy. Wie süß ist das? Das will ich haben. So. Wie süß das ist. Und Alex, der große Hallöchen. Herzlich willkommen im Chat. Wie geht's dir? I never even liked zombies. All I wanted was to show off my new scar. Da, frisch. Ui. And it needed to be something scary. It couldn't be a normal person who had a scar, according to my 8-year-old mind. I was a little dog. Ja, du warst ein little dog.
Right?
Right? Ja, oh, das war eine gute Reaktion. Dad really wanted to be useful as usual. He came up with the idea of being an undead person. It was pretty good, huh? Man, I was so jealous of that look. It was good, but my costume that year was better. Liz was so grossed out, and Shiloh was terrified. I remember you getting lots of extra candy when adults realized the scar was real. Oh no, it was hard seeing your arm like that. I don't really remember. Man, ohne Witz, ich wäre so jealous, ne? Man, I was so jealous of that look. You tried your best, but it was hard to compete with a real-life scar. Or so you'd wistfully thought at the time. Cove chuckled at your reply. I can't believe how much larger my scar used to be. Na, jetzt ist alles gut verheilt. He looked down at his arm, a soft smile on his face, and traced what remained of the jagged line with his fingers, just as you'd seen him do countless times before. Und Freddy, danke für dein Follow. Vielen, vielen Dank. Und herzlich willkommen. Jetzt kommst du hier nicht mehr raus. His voice was playful when he spoke again. Look at how tiny it is now. How am I gonna pretend to be tough without a big scar? Du bist tough so oder so. So. Cove, you've never fooled anyone. You were relieved that he accepted and even liked his scar. It's a definite blow to your street cred. It still looks cool. You better not do anything stupid to get a new scar, you joked, wagging a finger at him. You sighed in a long-suffering way. Entschuldigung, aber don't do anything, okay? Okay? You better not do anything stupid to get a new scar, you joked, waving finger at him. Wieder bei jemand gefangen. Sorry. So. No matter how much you like them, I won't. Cove smiled bashfully, pleased with his joke, and ducked his head to look away from you. His fingers were still tracing the scarred patch of his skin. I really do like having this, even if it's kind of... even if it is kind of little these days. His voice was shy, like he was letting you in on a big secret. Cove turned back to face you fully, finally letting go of his scar. He was happy that mark was part of him and clearly had meaning for Cove. Reaching over, you laid a reassuring hand on his arm where the scar was. Could I touch your scar? You smiled back at him. Wir rückversichern ihn, damit er sich auch sicher fühlt. Oh, ach, der ist süßi. You cupped his arm with your fingers carefully as your thumb ran down the line of his scar. Along with the rougher tissue of the scar, you could also feel goosebumps on his arms. Oh. Oha! Cove let out a choked breath, a dizzied smile playing out on his face. It was evident that he liked the feeling. Cove mag es, gestreichelt zu werden. It's getting steamy. You held his gaze. You lifted his arm up to kiss the scar. It's getting hot in here. So take off all your clothes. Okay. Wir machen das, ja? Wir machen das. You lifted his arm up to kiss the scar. Your hold shifted so you could bring his forearm to your face. Cove quietly gasped when he realized what you were doing. You tenderly kissed the old wound that marked him. Cove squeaked at the feeling of your lips on him, and in that spot in particular, but his expression was overwhelmingly one of adoration. Cove couldn't stay still and reached for you himself with his free hand, his fingers brushing against your cheek. Ich kann das nicht. He leaned forward, eyes gleaming. You automatically began to match his movement, pulling nearer to him. His cheeks burned red as he closed the gap between you, his mouth gently meeting yours. You held onto his arm like a lifeline as you kissed him back, briefly worried that you might drown in the depths of your feelings. Then you opened your eyes, meeting Cove's, and knew that the feeling was mutual. Oh, diese zwei Süßis. Diese zwei Süßis. He laid his forehead to rest against yours. You felt his hot breath tickling your face. Heads touching your hand on his arm, you were entwined with Cove. It felt so right. Time couldn't register in that moment. It could have been seconds or minutes, but eventually you straightened up, lifting your hand from his scar. That seemed to break the spell. Though he stayed close to you, Cove sat up and came to his senses. Your eyes drifted back to the scar on Cove's arm. The scar had been there as long as you'd known Cove, though when you'd first met it had been concealed by that neon pink cast.
So?
Do you wanna hear how it happened? How I was hurt? Stimmt, die Geschichte hat er noch nie erzählt. You were initially stunned that he'd guessed what you were thinking. Though given the topic of conversation and the direction of your gaze, it was a natural conclusion to reach. Not bothered by your reaction, Cove continued with a shrug. Ich hab vergessen, das Game zu setten. So. I don't mind telling you, it's nothing special. It's nothing special. He rubbed the back of his neck, grinning sheepishly. Und Freddy, danke fürs Quaken. Mostly it's just really dumb. You nodded. That was something you'd like to hear more about, especially knowing that no lasting harm had come of it. Kov stared into the distance, lips parted as he readied the story in his mind. So, me, my dad, and mom were at a party. I don't know if it was a casual get together or a specific celebration. I hope it wasn't for something meaningful, considering how I ended it. He winced, then managed a bashful smile. Anyway, my mom and dad were off doing stuff, talking to people, I guess. I was left with the other non-adults. Most of them were older than I was, maybe all of them were? His brow furrowed as he tried to recall dusty memories, then he shrugged again and continued. The older kids were taking turns on the jet skis. There weren't enough for everyone to ride at once, so in between turns they were hanging out on the shore. I was meant to just sit there with them and watch. Remembering when you'd first met Kov, you bet that he hadn't been satisfied with that arrangement. He confirmed that suspicion. I was pretty unhappy. It was a party for me, not when all I could do was look at other people have fun when I couldn't. The teens must have realized that, though I never hid when I was pouting as a kid. Pouting kid? Only when you were a kid? Oh. Kov bristled with embarrassment. It looked pretty sulky to you. Come on, let me finish the story. All right. Kov sighed, letting go of the interruption and picking up where he left off. Well, basically, someone offered to let me ride. I was pretty too small to drive it myself, but this older kid, they must have been at least 16, said I could sit in front of them while they controlled the jet ski. I knew I wasn't supposed to do anything like that, still I figured my parents were doing whatever they wanted, so why couldn't I? I nodded at the person, and I remember the other teens helping me onto the jet ski, along with the one driving. We sped off into the water. Kov smiled widely and wistfully. It was amazing at first. My hair was flying everywhere as we zoomed away from the shore. I loved being out on the water like that. Too bad it turned out steering a jet ski with an 8-year-old sat on your lap was harder than a bunch of kids figured it would be. The teen tried their best, but they couldn't keep control for long. We got spun around and went right into the sand. Oi. You sucked in a deep breath. The other person wasn't hurt. Thankfully, they held onto the bars and stayed in their seat. I didn't. Oh no. I was thrown at full speed into a rocky part of the shore near the dock. I must have tried to brace for impact or catch myself, cause my arm is what I mostly landed on. Oh nein, das hört sich so schmerzhaft an. He looked down at the limb in question. You could see him visualizing the long-healed injury. It was pretty torn up. After that, it's hazy for me. I got taken to the hospital. I didn't feel a lot of pain when it first happened. Ja, du hattest so viel Adrenalin, Junge. Junge. All I remember thinking about was how I was covered in sand and the grains were uncomfortable. Oh, das ist ja dann auch noch total ekelhaft, ne? Wenn alles so kaputt ist und verletzt ist und offen und dann plus Sand und dann Reinigung in... Oha. The sand was uncomfortable? Kov chuckled. I know, right? I did start feeling my arm later. It definitely hurt eventually. The doctor said my arm was broken along with being torn open. That's how I ended up getting my pink cast. He smiled nostalgically. That color, it seemed just nice and happy at the time. It brightened the mood, so I picked it. Serious. The smile faded. He finished the story with a sigh, his eyes downcast. I feel bad I did any of that. I hope whoever that teen was, they weren't traumatized by seeing a little kid go flying into the ground. They were just trying to do a nice thing. Kov threw arms out to the side dramatically. I wish I knew who they were so I could give them a call and say I'm still in one piece. But yeah, that's the full story. I'm so glad you were both okay in the long run. I'm really sorry that happened. You laughed at what a terrible idea it had been. How could you be so reckless? You didn't know how to react. I'm sorry that this happened. So. Nein! Mein Spiel hat sich aufgehangen. Okay, oh. Ja, während das Spiel lädt, ich muss mal kurz die Rolle hochmachen. Ja, well, ich glaube tatsächlich, gleich trennt sich, ja, das Spiel hat sich aufgehangen. Das nicht gut. Das nicht gut. Well, wir können uns jetzt mal Cove im Ganzen anschauen. Ja, ich wusste es. Ich wusste es. Nein! Und ich habe ja nicht gespeichert. Okay. YouTube-Aufnahme. Ich mache alles. Ich muss das Spiel neu starten. Ich mache alles so wie vorher. Und dann sehen wir uns dann gleich wieder an der gleichen Stelle wieder. Bis gleich. So, YouTube, da sind wir wieder zurück. An unserer Stelle, wo wir waren. Hat jetzt auch nicht lang gedauert. Vielleicht 5 Minuten oder so. So, und wir waren bei I'm really sorry that happened. Das wollten wir anklicken. So. You couldn't help but worry about how scary it must have been for all involved. Cove hung his head. He didn't press further. It was clear that he regretted the impulsive choice he'd made. It was a failure. That's just the truth. Truth. He smiled flatly. But to my credit, I think I've grown a lot since then. Wait. Cove's eyes went completely white. Suddenly, reinvigorated, he seized his phone and tapped away at the screen. What's up? I knew it. You weren't sure that he'd heard you, but he set his phone down and turned to face directly to you. His face was resolute. Though the glow of the screen was no longer reflected in his eyes, they seemed to sparkle even brighter than before. Jenny, we are adults. We can decide things for ourselves now. Schön, Cove. Schön, dass du das jetzt auch mal weißt. You only realized that now? Okay. Where is this going? This can't be going anywhere good. I like where this is headed. You waited for him to explain further. Ja, was soll ich jetzt machen? You only realize that now? Where is this going? Also also ich habe zwar ausgesprochen, so, fällt dir jetzt erst auf, aber gedacht habe ich tatsächlich so, was sind jetzt deine Pläne? Was hast du vor? Deswegen kann das nicht irgendwie... naja, okay. Wir nehmen mal meine erste Reaktion, die ich auch ausgesprochen habe. You only realize that now? The age requirement to rent a jet ski in California is 18. We can totally do it. Yes? No? Let's use our adult powers for jet skiing adventure. You want to break another boat? There are more exciting things adults can do. You joke. You were silently shocked. Ich bin immer noch davon angetan. Muss man so 30 Minuten weg, alles klar. Viel Spaß im Blurb, Freddy. So, ja. There are more. Also. Okay. Ich möchte vernünftig sein. Let's use our adult powers for a jet skiing adventure. Cove beamed, pumping the air with both fists. Definitely the action of someone mature enough to rent a vehicle. Auto. All right. Within a moment, Cove had recovered and returned to his serious expression from before. I'll be careful, and I really want you to be there when I try again, please. His voice was soft and earnest. You could tell how much the request meant to him. You also knew him enough to know that he wasn't going to give up on his idea. Letting him go on his own wasn't an option. Of course I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it. I actually love jet skiing. I'd be interested in trying jet skiing. I'll keep an eye on you from the shore. Ich bin ganz ehrlich, Wassersport habe ich richtig Angst vor. Also einfach, dass ich mir irgendwie wehtue oder so. Ich liebe Schwimmen und sowas, ne? Aber so Wassersport, ja, ne? Weiß ich nicht, habe ich Angst. I'll keep an eye on you from the shore. Cove perked up at once and grin stretched wide across his face. He was practically bouncing in place. Let's go. You got up and worked as a team to gather everything needed for the trip. Cove's other aquatic hobbies came in handy, and he was quickly kitted out with everything he'd need other than the jet skis themselves. You needed to run back home briefly, having dressed and prepared for a day that didn't involve jet skiing, but soon enough you were both ready and jumping into Cove's car. As you got in, you learned that Cove had used the brief time apart to locate a rental store on his phone. You caught his eye as you clicked your seatbelts into place. Excited, you held out a hand. Cove slapped it in a high five before setting off. Süß. You and Cove soon arrived. The ocean was perfectly inviting today. The deep blue of the water glittered under the clear sky while he tight-rolled in and out at its leisure. Boy, sagen Sie mal. I'm so excited for this. You were just as pumped as he was. His excitement was adorable. You felt a little worried. You felt a chill of fear. You were really doing this. You didn't know how to feel. His excitement was adorable, ja wirklich. Seeing how pleased you were, Cove grinned at you.
Hey.
Oh, hey, wanna say hi to my dad while we're here? I've already texted my mom about the plan. He's working right now. You remembered how close his shop was. It wouldn't take long even by walking. Sure, we can do that. Mr. Holden was a great guy, so you were happy to check in on him.
Sorry.
Thanks. Sorry, it might be kinda awkward when he hears why we're here, but it should be alright. I mean, my parents forgave me a long time ago for that amazing stunt. Ja, das war wirklich ein amazing stunt. I don't want to be scared of jet skiing for my whole life because of it. You wondered which of you Cove was attempting to reassure. It was only a short walk back down the dock to Mr. Holden's scuba shop. Cove breezed in as familiar with the shore as he was with his own home. The place was quite empty aside from a couple of customers quietly browsing, and Cove stared behind the counter. Mr. Holden looked up, his friendly expression spreading into a grin when he saw who had just entered. Mr. Holden, Daddy, bitte.
Hey!
Chefskiss, ey. Wow. Chefskiss, der sieht... Erste Sahne, ey. Ich sag's euch. Ich kann nicht, ne? Ich liebe Cove, ja? Ich bin voll... Wir sind voll in Cove verschossen, okay? Aber der Daddy, da habe ich ein persönliches Faible für, ne? Also für ihn. Oh mein Gott. Ja, für ihn. Also, den da. Hi, Jenny. Hey, Sport. What brings you all the way out here? He cast an eye at the way the two of you were dressed. Judging by how you're decked out, I'm guessing scuba diving? There's plenty here for that. What can I help you with? Cove chuckled, amused by how quickly his dad seized on a favorite topic, or maybe it was how his dad always fell over himself trying to be useful. Hi, Dad. We're not doing that this time. We're sort of deciding to go rent a couple of jet skis. Jetzt fahren wir doch mit, oder was? Also, wir haben doch gesagt, wir wollen nicht. Wir gucken nur. The phrase jet skis had set Mr. Holden's home. Doro, hallöchen, guten Morgen erstmal. Ich hoffe, dir geht's gut und danke für 28 Monate schon. Vielen, vielen Dank. Es ist auch schon wieder so lange, ne? Es ist einfach unglaublich. Es ist unglaublich. Wie geht's dir? The phrase jet skis had set Mr. Holden's mouth in a taut line immediately. Jet skis. He echoed the words as his eyes instinctively darted to the scar on Cove's arm. That's when Mr. Holden started to speak several times, each attempt quickly abandoned. Cove smiled encouragingly. Ich habe jetzt schon wieder. Jetzt ist der Zeitpunkt angekommen, an dem mein Englisch versagt. Trying not to add to his father's worries. Dass ich dich hier nochmal wiedersehe. Oder ich bin in letzter Zeit so selten da, es ist schon peinlich. Obwohl ich so gerne mache, aber ich bin die ganze Zeit so beschäftigt. Oh, was ist denn hier passiert? Obwohl ich ja wirklich so gerne hier sein möchte. Ne? Ich habe aber so viel zu tun. Aber ich werde definitiv, hoffentlich, ab Mai, also versuchen, meine Zeit besser zu planen und so weiter. Und dann sollte ich eigentlich auch wieder regelmäßiger da sein. Ich hoffe, ich kriege das so hin. Ich möchte mich halt auch nicht, ich möchte auch nicht meine Ruhephasen dann komplett einfach wegnehmen, weil dann irgendwann mal falle ich halt wieder vor lange aus. Möchte ich halt nicht, weil ich mache es ja auch gerne. Gut, soweit, danke. Und dir, mir geht es gut. So.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. I promise I'll be careful and Jenny will be there too. We always look out for each other. Mr. Holden pinched his face back into an unconvincing smile.
Right.
All right, you're a whole lot bigger now than you were back then. Heck, you can drive a car and everything. Das ist halt wirklich so, ne? I'm sure you and Jenny will have plenty of fun. The worry still echoed out in his voice, barely concealed by the positive words, but Cove was... Oh, dieses Wort. By his father's support. Ja, aber meistens bist du ja auch da, wenn ich arbeite oder so. Aber jetzt habe ich Urlaub. Dore, ich habe auch Urlaub. Aber freut mich, dass du Urlaub hast. Du hast es dir ja auch wirklich verdient. Du hast ja auch immer so viel zu tun. Gönn dir die freie Zeit. Yeah, well, we're all set. We only stopped by to say hi and let you know since we're over here. Mr. Holden beamed, obviously moved by his son's simple consideration. Wow, you're so thoughtful. Thanks for taking the time. Dad, you don't need to thank me for that. Mr. Holden simply laughed at his son's response. It'd be great if you could keep me in the loop while you're out there too. Just text me to let me know if it's going well or anything. Oh Gott, er hat einfach seine Eltern traumatisiert. I will. His dad smiled more easily.
Great.
Great. Ja, aber meistens... Warte, achso, das hatte ich ja schon. Also manchmal vergesse ich, was ich vorgelesen habe. Cove rubbed at his arm, causing Mr. Holden's eyes to momentarily twitch back to the childhood injury.
Bye.
We're gonna head out. See you later. Bye. Take care. See you, Mr. Holden. Mr. Holden waved you off as you left the store. The pair of you headed back to the docks, walking side by side. After your feet hit the boards, Cove's pace fell. Glancing over, you saw him looking down out over the water. That wouldn't have been unusual if his expression hadn't been so somber. He wasn't geared up with anticipation or even nervousness, but with an uncharacteristic lethargy. Lethargy? Yeah, lethargic. Something was weighing heavy on his mind. You're gonna walk right off into the sea if you don't pay attention. You nudged him gently. What's up, Cove? Wir wissen, was los ist. Er macht sich nämlich jetzt Sorgen, weil sein Vater sich Sorgen macht, obwohl er das eigentlich gerne machen wollen würde. Und er möchte ja auch nicht, dass seine Eltern sich Sorgen machen. Wir wissen es. Deswegen machen wir einfach nur so, also hey, so nach dem Motto so, hey, es ist okay. Es ist okay. Bin gespannt, wie sehr ich von vorne anfangen muss. Hab diese und nächste Woche Urlaub, obwohl nur diese Woche Schließzeit ist. Mein Fach auf der Arbeit wird voll sein. Well, das ist natürlich blöd. Aber weißt du was? Du hast Urlaub. Denk nicht an die Arbeit. Versuch es. Denk einfach nicht dran. Denk einfach nicht dran. Gönn dir die freie Zeit, genieß es. Mach das einfach. You nudged him gently. Huh? He blinked, startled by you interrupting his rumination.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. He sighed. Though you turned his attention from the ocean, it gradually drifted back to the water. You cleared your throat, unwilling to lose him again. Sorry again. He put his hands to his face, rubbing his eyes wearily. Here I go, thinking everything's resolved with what's happened, and we can have fun. But I can't just enjoy anything. I had to I had to find something else to get stuck in my head. You're having second thoughts about jet skiing?
No.
No, that's not it. The ends of his lips were drawn into the beginning of a frown, like gray clouds clustering to signal a coming storm. I figured my dad would be a little worried about me doing it, but what he was saying, it wasn't what I had expected. He was so sad. It was more than nervous. It was more than nervous. I think he feels bad and now I feel bad. Ja, was ich eben halt gesagt habe, ne? But it isn't as if I'm the only one who ever does something stupid or gets hurt. It got me thinking about that whole time. That's when I realized it wasn't long after that accident that my parents separated. Oh. Wir bleiben leise. Wir bleiben leise. As a kid, I didn't think about the consequences of my actions, you know, or how what I did impacted other people. Like, why should anyone care? I'm the one doing it, not them. It made no sense, and I still cared when other people did things I didn't like, but I was 8. I'm mostly just mad that nothing felt like it was in my control. You could tell that he was building up something, so you nodded for him to continue. I was pretty difficult to deal with because of that attitude, but looking back, I think that's what saved me from something a lot of kids go through. Blaming themselves for the parents' divorce. It never crossed my mind that anything I did made a difference on my mom and dad's relationship. They would do what they did no matter what. Now, though, I guess it's kind of hard to ignore that thought, huh?
I mean,
their situation was already so hard and I wasn't a good kid, so... Oh. He left his words adrift as he looked down, the conclusion unfinished. It was silent between you. But only for a second. Cove pulled himself up to his full height, his chin held aloft. Aloft? Whatever he decided, he was resolute. I'm going back. I've got to talk to my dad. I'm not gonna let things be like before, where I just feel crappy and refuse to even tell him what's going on. That doesn't work for either of us. You can go ahead if you want. I won't mind. I still really want to do this, and I'm sure it'll be okay. All right, I'll see you later. You nodded. You shook your head. I want to stay with you. There's no way you're going off on your own. Es ist so schwer jetzt zu entscheiden, ne? An sich ist das ein Ding, was die selbst klären müssen. Aber ich möchte ihm halt auch zeigen, dass wir da sind. Hab nicht vor, weiter darüber nachzudenken. Ich denke eher darüber nach, welchen Arzt ich mir aufsuche, weil mein Hausarzt mich nicht krank genug für eine Krankmeldung findet. Was ist das denn? Was? Hä? Was ist denn mit dem Hausarzt los? Habt ihr noch irgendwie einen anderen Hausarzt in der Nähe, Doro? Weil, was soll denn der Humbug? Wenn du krank bist, bist du krank. Also die ersten zwei kommen auf jeden Fall schon mal nicht in Frage. You shook your head. I want to stay with you. There's no way you're going off on your own. Ich denke, keine Ahnung, die nächsten Ärzte wären in der Stadt echt so weit. Wir haben so viele Hausärzte, das ist unglaublich. Ich habe irgendwo hier ein Haar hängen. Vielleicht lohnt sich dann eine Fahrt in die Stadt. I want to stay with you. There's no way you're going off on your own. Ich glaube, wir sagen ihm, there's no way you're going off on your own. We always look out for each other, remember? Cove smiled gently, having wanted that deep down. Thanks. Let's go. You and Cove retook your steps down the docks once more, heading back to Mr. Holden's scuba shop. The customers you'd spotted in there before were now leaving the store, new bags clutched in their hands. You hoped that this would mean Cove could have his conversation without a public audience. Außer uns. This time, Cove strode inside the shop with purpose. Mr. Holden, still at the counter, glanced up to greet whoever had come inside. He grinned as you approached.
How's it going?
Hello again. Forget something? Sort of. Cove had reached the counter now. You needed to rush just to keep up with him as he crossed the show floor. Mr. Holden raised an eyebrow, taken in Cove's shift in attitude, and chose his next words with care. Is everything all right? Cove swallowed, not answering initially. Talking openly with his dad was still somewhat new for the son. You knew that he was struggling for the right way to begin. I wanted to ask about what happened. Mr. Holden winced as if the words had struck him physically. The accident? No, the divorce. The pained expression fell from Mr. Holden's face. Wide-eyed, his jaw slack, he gaped at Cove.
Huh?
Oh, why? Huh? Cove glanced over his shoulder at you. As your eyes met, you saw him draw confidence by having you by his side. He turned back to his father. Schaut, wir sind eine emotionale Stütze. I want to know the truth. His tone was grave. Did me getting into the accident hurt your marriage? If I hadn't done it, would you and Mom have gotten along better? No! Hell no! Uiuiui. Uiuiui. Oh oh. Ein böser Mr. Holden. Gefällt mir auch, aber... Mr. Holden squashed the suggestion with a gravity you'd rarely heard in his voice. You were 8 years old. You're not responsible in any way. Kira and I should have protected you. I can understand why you're feeling that. What happened was so horrible. How could it not have an impact? It did. It was a reflection of us as parents. The relationship between just your mom and me was separate and already unsalvageable. Cove turned away, his brow still furrowed as he looked at the floor. Maybe I'm being anxious and it's taking over, but it wasn't just then. I always caused problems. He pluffed on, unwilling to give up without explaining his worries. What if I'd been easier to raise? Or if you'd had me later on, maybe even if you didn't have me at all. Nein. Nein, Kopf, damit wollen wir nicht anfangen. It might have been better for the two of you. If I didn't have you, then what good would my life be? Ich fange gleich wirklich an zu heulen. Das ist ein Thema, das... Scheiße. Ey, ein Spiel bringt mich zum Heulen. So. Ich darf mein Make-up nicht ruinieren. Ui. Ich darf mein Make-up nicht ruinieren. Well. So. Mr. Holden didn't let the words hang unchallenged in the air for even a second. He hurried over to Cove, taking his son's arms in his hands. Cove, listen. There's only one person to blame for things not working, and that's me. Taschentücher. Ich habe hier keine Taschentücher, Doro. Ich habe hier keine Taschentücher. Ich muss mir mal hier so eine Tempobox hinstellen. Das Spiel macht mich fertig. Cove opened his mouth to speak, but Mr. Holden forced on, determined to erase any question in Cove's mind. I'm not saying this to dishonestly push accountability off from someone else or to throw a pity party for myself. You want to know the truth? The truth, so that's what I'm giving you. Ich habe Angst, was jetzt der Grund für die Scheidung ist. Your father is the reason our family couldn't stay together. You think you caused trouble? You should have seen me at your age. You're such a good kid. I can hardly believe how good you are. Mr. Holden's eyes were misty as he squeezed his son's arms. There's nothing, absolutely nothing you need to blame yourself for. I'm sorry, Cove, to you and to Kira. Mom? Yeah, your mom. His pained face eased slightly into a bittersweet smile. Kira, she was just so smart and driven and completely bursting with life. It was as if she could do anything. You know, there wasn't a single solitary person who didn't want even a piece of her attention. Just to catch her eye for a moment. But for some crazy reason, she had a soft spot for my 17-year-old screw-up self. That's when we first met, though it definitely took some time before I managed to ask her out on a date. Mr. Holden shook his head, the smile melting as his recollection became solemn once more. And then we'd only been officially together for about 6 months when we found out we were having a baby. I was so worried, so scared, but she was so brave. Das heißt, er könnte jetzt sogar noch nicht mal 40 sein. Perfekt für mich. She was my rock, but we both knew the road ahead was going to be rockier. When we got married, I didn't see it as a dream come true. I wasn't about to start living my life in the only way I could imagine doing so. I thought what happened, and throwing my cards in with a girl like her was worth the risk. He grimaced, the sentence sour in his mouth, regretting his past perspective. I'd been taking care of myself on my own and getting by, then all of a sudden I was going to have a wife and a child. So I thought, alright, I better step things up and take care of all of us, and that's what I did, sort of. He rolled his eyes. I made money, kept a roof over our heads, and put food on the table. But I was always busy, focused on taking care of things, that I didn't stop to consider what anyone else was thinking or what they actually needed. I made every decision about what I did, and as a result, what happened to the family by myself, never asking what your mom felt or even wondering if she might have an opinion. I'd tell Kira about the great place I'd found and how we'd be moving there in the same breath. Or that I'd spend all our savings and taken out a loan to start this business we're standing in, and even more nonsense. Anything I felt I needed to do, I did. Kira couldn't even ask where I'd been all day without me rolling my eyes like she was being a nag. I was making sure we didn't starve, obviously, right? Couldn't she trust me? He sighed, his head hung low.
God.
She went to school part-time while raising you, really knuckling down, but that didn't matter to me back then. She could have spent her days lying in bed, not dying, and I would have felt the same. I didn't care. I was going to get it all done on my own either way. It's so stupid. I admired her more than anyone when there was nothing at stake, yet as soon as responsibilities were involved, I couldn't let myself rely on her. He combed a hand through his hair, searching for an understanding of his own younger self. I'm not even sure why. Maybe I had something to prove. Maybe I'm the one who didn't trust her in the end. Poor Kira. She had to spend every day mentally weighing the pros and cons of putting up with my horrible ideas for the sake of peace, or trying to explain to my blockheaded self that I was doing wrong. It must have been so stressful and frustrating, constantly having to let everything go because I was stubborn and absolutely would make a fight out of it. He snorted bitterly. I was definitely stuck in my head a lot those days. Our relationship at that point was made of arguments and cool tolerance, but I still genuinely didn't see the divorce coming. We'd made it through the first years, and after that I never really considered it ending. It was just how life was. In retrospect, it's clear Kira kept thinking on it more every year, especially because she managed to finish her journalism degree, and with us being more stable, financially that is. She thought of everything. She even timed it right when your school ended for the year, so the process would hopefully be all settled before you had to worry about class again. She were already talking about it before the accident ever happened. Oh, I know I took it really hard being a sad sack all around the neighborhood, but even that is unfair to me. When it shook out, I'm the one who got everything. Kira didn't want to leave you, Cove. She never would have. I'm certain she felt like she had no choice but to end the relationship. The business was doing really well by then, so I had an easier time making a living. She was between jobs, and when she did get a new job, it meant that she'd be traveling all the time. That's why she willingly accepted me having full custody. She didn't get to be there with her child for so many moments, and you had to spend half of your life growing up without your mother. And it's my fault. Mr. Holden closed his eyes briefly as he took a breath. So that's it, the story of Cliff and Kira's marriage. Not exactly a fairy tale, but I want to be clear. You saw his grip on Cove's arm tighten. No matter what happened with me and her, I'd never ever want to miss out on being your dad. Cove's throat bobbed as he swallowed. His eyes glistened, glossy with tears that had yet to fall. He blinked quickly, trying to hold them back. Thank you for telling me. His voice was hoarse, little more than a whisper. Mr. Holden brought a hand up to his face and lightly nudged Cove's chin. You're welcome. You're a grown-up now, right? You deserve the truth. That's the least I can do for you. Cove managed a fragile smile. Thank you for taking care of me, for all of it. Mr. Holden brushed the compliment off with a wave of his hand.
No worries.
No worries. It was nothing. Look at where we ended up. I've got this whole entire store, a house, friends here, a very thoughtful son. It's all good for me.
I'm so glad.
I'm glad. His voice was still quiet, and he ducked his head shyly after saying the words. Mr. Holden patted him on the back. You could see the tears in Cove's eyes still shining, threatening to spill over. Mr. Holden put an arm around his shoulders, gently steering him towards the door. You should go have fun, make some nice memories. Cove's gaze flicked over to you. The watery smile on his face solidified. All right. Good. Now out you go. Mr. Holden nudged the two of you out of the shop. Schon ein bisschen sad irgendwie. You both walked silently as you made your return to the docks. Cove's face was pensive, clearly still digesting everything his dad said. He finally sighed, catching your attention. He hesitantly reached for the bag he had brought and raised it up.
Jenny.
Jenny, I want to call my mom. I'm not gonna leave her out of things, and I want to know what she thinks about what happened and all of that. He fiddled with the straps of his bag. It still remained closed shut. It's not like I don't trust Dad, it's just Mom's thoughts are important too. Das ist wahr. I get it, Cove. There's two sides to every story after all. He seemed relieved that you understood. You knew he didn't want to be a bother with another delay. Thanks. Then I guess there's no time like the present. Time to ask. With that mini pep talk, he finally opened his bag and found his phone. Cove unlocked it quickly and tapped over to his favorite contacts. He called up his mom and put the phone on speaker as it dialed. Kira must have had her phone close because she answered almost immediately. Cove, this is a pleasant surprise. I thought you'd be getting back to me later. Wie süß sie jetzt aussieht. Hey, Mom. He paused for a second and then looked at you. You're on speakerphone with Jenny too. Hi, Kira. Hello. Hi, I'm here. You kept quiet. You already knew you were there. Hä? Natürlich sagen wir hello. 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 Can you hear me? Hi, Kira. Oh, hello, hello. I'm popular today. Well, what's going on? Don't keep me in suspense. Are you a pro jet skier already? Cove chuckled and scratched the back of his head. We haven't started yet. Actually, there's something I kind of want to ask you about.
Really?
Really? I'm intrigued. Her voice was bright and excited. Cove moved the phone closer to his face so he could speak softly, aware that the tone of his conversation was about to change. I was talking to Dad earlier. It was about your relationship and why you both divorced. Ah. That one syllable had lost all her earlier energy. Cove tightened his grip on his phone. It does make sense that the past would come up today. Yeah, but... He tried to brighten up the mood again. You weren't used to him being the perky one of the two. You could only imagine it felt like a strange role reversal for him. Dad said you were really amazing. He admired you a lot. What a flatterer. She sighed wistfully, and you could hear some interference. Interference? Mein Bauch knurrt. Ei. Maybe she had shaken her head. You couldn't tell for sure. Oh, Cliff. He bungled himself through regular, everyday adulting and social situations in astoundingly charming ways. Yet somehow, at the exact same time, he was an ambitious, slightly shady, under-the-table type of man when it came to making his living in the world. So essentially, your father was an absolute heartthrob for someone such as myself. Cove and Kira laughed delicately. The tension was broken into something lighter, more familiar between the two. It's cool you both have nice things to say about each other. I agree, baby. She took a moment before continuing carefully. Do you have questions about what happened? I'm not sure. Cove squinted at the phone in his hand as he tried to think, his free hand brushing through his hair. I just kind of wanted to know how you'd describe what it was like. Could I tell you what Dad said about it?
All right.
I don't think Cliff would mind. Whatever he told you is probably what he'd say to me. Alright, go for it. After taking a breath, Cove recapped Cliff's experience, doing his best to follow his dad's story. He went into a surprising amount of detail, and not a single thing was missed. Kira listened on in absolute silence, letting her son speak without interruption. When Cove finished, he took another deep inhale of air. So, what do you think? Kira sighed softly. You heard a clacking noise like she was drumming her nails on the back of her phone or on a countertop. That definitely sounds like Clifford. It's not exactly wrong, but he doesn't have a total picture. He puts the emphasis on the wrong places, I think.
Huh?
Huh? What do you mean? For starters, Cliff unsurprisingly downplayed himself more than he had to. He did? Cove's eyebrows raised and his face continued to inch even closer to the screen. Well, since your dad was so praising of me, it's only fair to return the favor. When Cliff said he was already taking care of himself when he met me, he means he was on his own. Cliff's own parents weren't and still aren't friendly people. Oh. They've always had a combative relationship, though him getting into drinking and gambling as a teenager certainly didn't help. Was? Das war gemeint? Das war gemeint? Was? He knew they'd kick him out at 18, so he saved them the trouble and left home at 17. He always found a way to make it work, even without support. I met him a few months after that. We hit it off right away. He was exactly what I wanted back then. We dated, and then about a year later, bam, you were on the way, Cove. She laughed fondly as Cove clung to every word. I was really optimistic about it all. I couldn't wait to be a mother, and I was more than happy that Cliff was the father who'd be along for the ride. We got married quick before you were born. Cliff's recollection of our wedded dynamic is pretty spot on. He was extremely stubborn and just, well, immature. Highly, highly immature. Her voice raised slightly, and you got the feeling she was thinking back to her memories living with him. She left the specifics unspoken. But it's not like I was grown up either. Everyone, except maybe Cliff, could see our relationship was no good, or at least not good enough yet to commit to. I knew, but I didn't want to give it up. I wanted to keep the family together. I thought that if we divorced or we're never together, then we'd ruin your life, Cove. Obviously, that wasn't true. I just didn't have enough experience at the time to realize there wasn't only one option for us. Maybe things would have been easier on you if we had split when you were still a baby, but it took me years to start figuring it all out. Cove nodded. Even his mom couldn't see it, thinking hard about something. He was likely remembering his own experiences back then. We were married, but never seriously loved each other. We hardly knew each other. Ooh, ha. I don't mind that Cliff never viewed marrying me as some kind of dream come true. I honestly just appreciate that he tried giving my hastily made life plan a shot. I was the one who proposed after all. Got down on one knee and everything was... Oh. She huffed slightly, something between a chuckle and a sigh. It's very funny and a little sad that Cliff still doesn't know why things change between us. It's obvious to me, and I guess he does know deep down. He just never consciously made the connection.
It's alright.
I'm not even mad he didn't stay the same towards me. Love makes everything different. But you said... I know what I said. She interrupted before Cove could even finish the blurted out interjection. I don't mean Cliff and I. We were just two kids in a relationship that only ever worked when it was at its easiest. And then you were born, little Cove James Holden. Cove James Holden? Hatten wir das? Er hat einen Doppelnamen? Haben wir das irgendwann mal erfahren? Oder habe ich es einfach vergessen? I loved you immediately, and so did your father. Cove was stunned. His eyes started watering, his mouth clamped shut. The inclination we had towards each other paled in the face of that. Our love to you was the real deal. Cliff was the proudest papa. Then, in true Cove fashion, tears began to fall. He stayed silent, but you were pretty sure Kira knew the effect her words had on her son. No matter how much time passed, Cliff never got over how amazing it was that such a precious little boy was his. Oh. Warum? Ich habe einfach nur Connection zu Mr. Holden, ich sag's euch. I should have taken pictures of how he'd puff up whenever someone referred to you as his son. She sounded much cheerier now. A slight smile crept on Cove's face despite his tears. Then again, he still does that now. It wasn't hard to imagine Mr. Holden lighting up around baby Cove the same way he did with 18-year-old Cove. I remember how when a real argument started brewing, Cliff had a habit of walking away to cool off. He wasn't able to handle it. His son seems to have taken... Oh Gott, ich hoffe, ihr habt das nicht gehört. Das war ja mal mega laut. Boah, mein Magen. His son seems to have taken after him in that way. True. You heard her chuckle and Cove looked down, a blush clear on his cheeks. You could just feel her smirk through the phone. She breezed over the next section airily. For our whole relationship, he always ended fights by skipping out on me for who knew how long. I don't think even Cliff knew when he'd come back. That stopped when you were born. Cliff stopped running. He was still gone a lot for work and we still had fights, but he wouldn't leave. Instead, he'd go to your room, Cove. If you were asleep, he'd just sulk on the ground by your crib until you woke up. Oh. Charakterentwicklung. Das ist schön, ja? Auch wenn es jetzt nur eine Erzählung ist. Boah, ich bin so emotional. Also eigentlich bekomme ich meine Tage nicht. Ja, ich weiß nicht, warum ich gerade so emotional bin. Sometimes he'd pace the room while holding you or sit on the floor and rock you. He'd stay with you until one of us decided we were ready to talk again. We didn't have a lot of furniture back then. That's part of the reason why Cliff was always hanging out on the floor. He really came to embrace it. When our relationship got bad enough that we didn't want to share a bed anymore, he always made sure I got to have the mattress. He instead set up a spot in the corner of the nursery just in case you needed anything through the night. Oh mein Gott, der Mr. Holden. He gave you a more private space when you got bigger, but he still always made sure he could be there for you. There's still no denying whether Cliff understands or not. He made his choices without prioritizing me, but it wasn't that he suddenly hated me. To Cliff, I was only a wife on paper. In his mind, I was a cool girl he had dated and generally liked. Nothing close to being the light of his life. All his blood, sweat and tears weren't for himself or me or even the family unit. They were all completely and totally for his baby. Boah, wenn andere Eltern mal so sein könnten, ne? Meanwhile, I was doing the same, though in the opposite way. I did take us being married seriously. I was trying to force us together as a couple, so we would be a complete family for our child. You felt like a fly on the wall of a very personal conversation. Cove didn't seem to notice when you looked over at him, his face a complicated patchwork of emotions.
I guess.
Eventually I woke up and saw what I was doing. I realized it wasn't going to work, not like that. When I was ready for it, I talked to Cliff about separating and starting up the divorce process. He was shocked by it, and unfortunately, it wasn't too long after when you had your accident, Cove. Jenny, I don't know how much Cove really told you about it, but when he broke his arm, it terrified all of us. Cove could have died. Even back then, we knew he'd likely have a permanent scar he'd have to live with forever. Our parenting hurt our child, and he was the only one who'd have to carry the repercussions. You were a bit taken aback to be referred to directly. You still felt a little out of place, and she seemed completely focused on her son. Cove grimaced, and the hand holding his phone shook. Mom. Kira continued as if she'd never paused. It was heartbreaking, and then on top of it all, we had to put you through your parents breaking up. Taking that back wasn't an option, despite the timing. It felt like everything we had worked so hard for to make you happy was for nothing. I chose to believe we'd fix our lives from there, but to Cliff it seemed hopeless. He failed his son. His son? His son. It was easier for me in some ways. I had my family to lean on that made it feel less daunting, less impossible. Cliff had only ever really known being on his own, by the happenstance of his birth and then by choice. When we broke up, he knew he was going to have to put back the pieces of what was left alone. I wanted to be there for him, even after everything, but I was the one divorcing him. It was impossible. I never managed to be someone he truly relied on, and I had to remember that wasn't changing. As bleak as it felt at the time, Cliff still tried not to let any of that show to you, Cove. He did what he could to keep your spirits high about the move, your new house, the scar, everything. So that's why Cove trailed off. He had misunderstood the impact of his injury had on his parents. You were reminded of something that made more sense now. Mr. Holden had been so... Holla die Waldfee, ich habe mich voll verschluckt. Sorry. Mr. Holden had been so helpful with Cove's old Halloween costume because he didn't want Cove to be saddened by the scar. It was clear Cove was coming to the same realization. Oh Gott, wartet mal bitte kurz. Ich habe jetzt ein Kloß im Hals, das ist hoffentlich nicht hörbar. Now with that all said, if Cliff was a completely perfect and wonderful guy, I wouldn't have left him. If it was even pretty good, I would have stayed. It was hard not to have custody. Sometimes I felt like I was a fun aunt rather than the mom I always wanted to be. I might have overcompensated a little at times because of that. She forced a laugh, but it had an uncomfortable edge to it. You could tell she was trying to blow off a very real anxiety of hers. Cove looked ready to say something, but his mom kept talking, kept moving forward. Still, it's not Cliff's fault alone that our relationship didn't work. We were always better as co-parents than spouses. But I knew when separating that it wasn't going to be even. And Cove, the only reason I could stand not being there for you all the time is because I knew that if the situation was reversed and I could have provided a more stable environment, Cliff would have done the same. Your dad would give up his house, his shop, even his right arm if it would guarantee that you were safe and happy. So, as painful as it was, I was sure you'd be okay because you were still with someone who loved you more than anything else in the world. And now there's me. Cove lowered his head, tears falling to the ground. He tried to speak. It took him a few tries. Thank you for telling me. His voice cracked and Kira made an alarmed sound on the other end of the line. I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to make you cry.
I get it.
It's okay. He was still crying. Everyone could tell, being physically present or not. I love you, Mom. You've always been my mom, not some aunt. My mom. I love you too. Her tone was thick with emotion. She was at the edge of a voice break herself. I'm so lucky to be your mom. She started to sniffle openly.
Don't worry about that.
Ich bin auch am Sniffeln hier. Don't feel bad for me with how it worked out. I promise that none of it was your fault, and it's not as though I'm completely miserable over here. I have an incredible life with a beautiful baby boy of my own who calls whenever he can. At that, Cove's tears only came down heavier. Oh, thank you. Kira sighed affectionately, and you could hear the warmth in her voice. I think that's good for now. Maybe we should end the call. Take a moment. Is that really all right? He tightened his grip on his phone. You could see how emotionally exhausted he looked.
Of course.
Of course, we'll be in touch soon. For now, you'll only be able to keep thanking me or apologizing.
Hey!
Hey! Cove cried out defensively over the accusation, making his mom snicker. Bye, and goodbye to you, Jenny. I'm glad you're there for my baby. See you. Bye, Mom. I love you. Love you too. Cove hung up. He let his hand drop to his side, his phone brushing the fabric of his wetsuit. His other hand went up to his face. He tried to wipe the tears from his eyes. His face was red and he struggled to put his phone back in his bag one-handed. You could tell he was getting worked up. He was getting worked up. He finally just used both of his hands and sealed his phone back into its normal place. Cove sniffed and then reached out for you. His hand trembled in your grasp and you squeezed back. He needed to feel your support. You want to go see your dad again? He didn't have to tell you what was on his mind for this. Cove nodded his head weakly. You rushed back the way you came, feet pounding across the boards of the dock to return to the scuba shop for the third time. You reached his dad's store, and Cove still wasn't slowing down. He pushed his way through the door at full speed. His hand released yours as he charged in. Mr. Holden had been walking around the middle of the store checking over things. Immediately, he turned at the sound.
What's wrong?
What? Where's the fire? Oh no! He froze when he got a look at Cove's face. He worriedly opened his mouth, probably to ask what was wrong, but then Cove launched himself at his father. Cove threw his arms around Mr. Holden's neck. He buried his face in his dad's shoulder and started to sob with deep, hitching breaths. Cliff clearly had no idea what was going on. His hand hovered awkwardly in the air. He looked at you for a brief second, hoping for understanding before turning all his attention on Cove. Oui. He wrapped both his arms around Cove's back. Cove looked secure in his father's embrace, protected and safe. It's okay, it'll be okay. Whatever it is, it's going to be okay. Cove kept crying. He inhaled deeply, his voice choking up when he tried to speak.
I'm so sorry.
You always tried to be there for me when I was growing up, and I was mean to you. I'm sorry.
What?
What? Mr. Holden was completely taken aback. He hadn't expected this to be the issue. You don't have to apologize for that, bud. Kids are allowed to be mad at their parents. It's my job to take care of you. I really didn't do anything special. Cove shook his head as emphatically as he could while still tucked in against his dad. You've always supported me no matter what. You've always loved me. I wish I realized how much you did sooner. Cove squeezed him tighter. Thank you. I love you, Dad. Aww. At his son's heartfelt confession, the father became choked up as well. He compressed Cove into a crushing hug. I do love you. I always will. You can count on that. Der hat einfach genau das gleiche Grinsen wie sein Papa. I want to be there for you too. They clung onto one another, absorbed in the moment. Then after a little while longer, they slowly began to loosen their hold. Aww. Cove sniffled and moved so he could use his palm to wipe away his tears. His dad's shirt was visibly damp where his face had been. Aww. Cliff patted on the top of Cove's shoulder. He looked at his son with pride. You've grown up so much. Cove started to laugh through his tears, a wavering smile on his lips. You doubted that Cove would have ever thought that crying on his dad's shoulder was a sign of maturity, but it was true. Cove had changed over the years. You were glad to see Cove grow. You felt a little awkward. You thought you understand Cove's dad a little better now. It made you wonder if there was more to understand about your moms. Also im ersten Moment, you were glad to see Cove grow. Wir sind jetzt gerade, geht es nicht um andere, es geht um Cove und um seinen Vater. Aber für uns geht es immer noch primär um Cove. You were glad to see Cove grow. Cove used to cry a lot over his parents, and he still did. Despite the similarity, the defining Coveness, there was a big difference between the two occasions. You were proud of him. You were proud of him. Cove wiped at his eyes again. You're a good dad. You're a good son. Mr. Holden was plainly touched by the words and beamed at his beloved. So, ich habe gelernt, das heißt nicht beloved, sondern beloved. Aber ich verstehe es nicht. Da steht beloved. Child. Cove looked away and shyly traced his car. Cliff chuckled and released Cove to rub the back of his neck. The earlier panic had bled off and left the confusion. I'm glad we had this talk, but what was it that made you cry in the first place? You weren't too bad off when you left before. Oh. Cove ducked his head further down, getting a very good look at the scuff marks on the floor. I called Mom. I wanted to talk to her about all of this. He kicked one of his feet shyly, swinging it back and forth against the ground. Things felt really hard when I was younger, but it wasn't just me going through stuff, Dad. You never give yourself credit. Cliff smiled gently and gripped Cove's shoulder with reassurance.
Oh.
Kira is an amazing person to come to my defense. For me, the only hard part was seeing you and her unhappy. Everything else, that was nothing. He wrapped an arm around Cove's neck for another side hug. Cove leaned into the embrace and glanced up at his dad. Your old man is tougher than he looks. Check out how powerful these arms are. And this is 10 years on. I was in my prime time those days. Mr. Holden. Cove laughed. It was a light sound full of fondness. Okay. He quieted down a little, finding a quick moment of seriousness. Thanks again, Dad. I know you don't want me to feel bad, and I'm happy because of everything you and Mom did. I have a really nice life. Mr. Holden's countenance became much more serious. He didn't take what was said lightly. Cove, you are very welcome. That's so good to hear. Then he let Cove go again. This time they both took a step back to their normal proximity. Mr. Holden cleared his throat. He looked at you right in the eyes.
That's a relief.
I also appreciate that you were here for support, Jenny. What a loyal partner. Cove looked back down, embarrassed. I'm glad I could be here. I want to be there for you too, so... Thanks for finally noticing my presence. Finally, resolution. You're both so sweet. You couldn't find a way to react. Ganz im Ernst. Die sind einfach knuffig, okay? You're both so sweet. You grinned at the couple of big softies. Cliff smiled warmly. He nudged Cove gently as if to say, look how lucky you are. Süß. Hey, maybe I ought to give you another $20 for all this. You've put up with a lot over the years. Cove's cheeks puffed up into a pout.
No.
No. I could use some money. Please don't. Not this again. You laughed. You shook your head. Ganz im Ernst. Wir stehen da drüber, okay? Wir lachen. You laughed. Cliff was a riot.
Sure.
Okay, I leave making jokes about that to Cove. Cove smiled satisfied at that. All right. Cove exhaled slowly. His posture relaxed. Oh Gott, ich habe gerade wieder einen Hänger. His posture relaxing. We better get going. You still have work, Dad, and I think Jenny has been patient enough. Cliff grinned and waved the two of you off. Sure thing. I'm happy you both stopped in, but you gotta go have some fun. Be careful out there. I don't need to go jet skiing anymore. Jenny didn't plan on doing it anyway. No way. You're a mature young man, and if you want to jet ski, then you should go out and jet ski. I'll still be there here if you need anything, right? Yeah, okay. Bye. Take care of yourself. Let's get a move on already. Whoa, I almost forgot why I came out in the first place. You choose to stay quiet. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Cove waved to his dad as he started walking out. You followed. When you turned back to Mr. Holden before you went out the door, he was waving. Bye, kids. You'll do great. Once again, as had become today's habit, you and Cove walked down the dock side by side. But this time, Cove had a bounce back in his step. His smile was soft but radiant. Thanks for staying, and sorry for how long it took. You're welcome. You do the same for me. These things happen. I was curious anyway. It's fine. I had a feeling it'd be a bigger deal than it started as. Promise we won't have any more interruptions? So, ganz im Ernst, er würde das Gleiche für uns tun. Nur haben wir halt nicht so eine heftige Story, glaube ich. You do the same for me. You had his bag and he had yours. It was just how things went between the two of you. He sidestepped to lean in closer to you and wrapped his arms around you. You relaxed into his embrace as he held you tightly. You hugged him back. You could smell the scent of the ocean on the breeze and feel the warmth of his chest. He exhaled and took a step back, his face a dazzling smile. The water lapped at the dock beneath your feet. Cove looked down when a particularly strong wave crashed against it. It's weird to think about my parents' relationship. There's all the stuff that I don't know because I wasn't there, or because I was just a kid, or because I didn't even exist yet. It feels really complicated. Relationships are complicated. I know what you mean. I feel that way about mine. Really? You didn't comment? Relationships are complicated. Es ist immer kompliziert. Es ist immer eine Menge Arbeit. Relationships are complicated. You agreed with him. Connections to other people were as varied as there were waves in the ocean. Cove nodded without elaboration. He looked out into the ocean wistfully for a moment before he shook it off.
It's nice.
I'm happy they were married, and if they didn't stay together in the end, even if they didn't stay together in the end. I'm glad you're feeling better. You asked about what he thought about marriage for himself. Now you try to refocus on what was ahead. Ganz im Ernst? Jetzt will ich das aber auch wissen. You asked about what he thought about marriage for himself now. Speaking of marriage. Kov's eyes widened curiously as he turned to face you. Are you scared of it because of everything that happened with your parents? Kov shook his head shyly. He didn't hesitate for a second. No, surprisingly, I don't have issues about the idea of getting married someday. You looked at him, not bothering to hide your intrigue. He chuckled self-consciously at the reaction he got. I mean, don't get me wrong. Trying to actually propose would be terrifying. I'm sure planning a whole wedding would be so hard, especially for me. But just the thought of having someone I loved, that I was married to, that I'd spend the rest of my life with, that doesn't scare me. It makes me happy to think about it. The both of you snug smiles at each other. What about you? Would you ever want to be officially married someday? Yes, it's something I really want someday. I don't see myself ever getting married. I'm not sure. I'd only get married if I found someone really special. I haven't thought about it. You didn't want to answer. I'd only get married if I found someone really special. The only wedding you could picture was with the perfect partner, someone you loved dearly. You'd never get married just to be married. If you were going to get married, it would be to someone that you truly cherished. Oh, he quickly decided to change the subject after that admission. All right, no more distractions. Let's go. It's time to jet ski. Yeah, let's do it. The two of you began to more quickly make your way across the boards. Despite your excitement, you were both careful. Neither of you wanted an accident, especially after what happened with Kov's first jet skiing trip. You finally got to the rental place. You were surprised at how easy the process was. It took no time at all for Kov to climb on his jet ski with shaky legs. You rented your own jet ski. You decided to just watch Kov. You found a comfortable place on the dock where you could watch Kov. You hadn't changed your mind on jet skiing and were more than happy to leave it to Kov. You looked across to Kov. He sat motionlessly astride his jet ski, preparing himself to start it up. Even from your distance, you could tell his hands were clamped onto the handles too tightly. He was stiff and nervous. Go, Kov, you can do it. Come on, are you really gonna chicken out now? It'll be alright, Kov, trust yourself. You let him a moment. Wir geben ihm Zuspruch. It'll be alright, Kov, just trust yourself. He took a deep breath. You could see the rise and fall of his chest. Thanks, Jenny. He inhaled slowly and started up the jet ski. It roared forward and you were surprised you could hear him squeak over the sound of the engine. He stopped after a few seconds and breathed again. After he'd calmed down, he started it up once more. Kov sputtered and stalled with it for a while, going a little farther each time. He grew more comfortable with the feel. He continued to struggle with the jet ski, but he refused to let that stop him. He kept going until he wrangled the machine into submission. Kov eventually reached the point where he only stopped the jet ski when he had something to say. He'd kept shouting things at you. This is amazing! Did you see that? This is so great, You watched from the dock as he gained more confidence. He was really enjoying himself out there. He zoomed forward and you could hear his bright laugh ring across the waves. You were relieved he'd taken it to it so well. You watched Kov casually from the dock. You took pictures with your phone. You dipped your feet into the water. You took pictures with your phone. Wir wollen den Moment speichern. You pulled out your phone and snapped pics whenever you could get a good shot. You made sure to hold your phone firmly so it wouldn't slip into the ocean. Kov continued to jet ski with glee. You laughed along with him. You both had a good time. Eventually the sun set and you had to pack up. Kov was thankfully still in one piece, no cast necessary. Wow. After everything was returned, Kov dug his phone out of his bag and texted his parents to let them know all about his triumph. You sent Kov the pictures you'd taken of him and he sent the best ones to his mom and dad. While you waited on their responses, he decided on taking a selfie with you too. You got into a silly pose you showed off your best angles. You covered your face in embarrassment. You smiled. You asked Cove to not take a picture of you. You smiled. You both grinned as he took the picture. It was a nice shot with the ocean stretching behind you. His phone vibrated after only a moment after texting it out. Mr. Holden and Kira had likely been waiting the entire day to find out how this outing would go. And with the news of his success, both of Cove's parents sent back how proud they were of Cove and how far he'd come. Watching him grinning in the setting sun after facing so many fears that day, you felt the same. Jetzt müssen wir erstmal safen. So, und jetzt will ich gerade einmal in die Galerie schauen. Ah, hier ist das Bild. Warum grinst er denn so? Aber naja, das ist ein Foto. Süß. Da hat er kurze Haare. Warum ist das so? Ich verstehe das nicht. Der hat auch da kurze Haare. Aber mein Kopf hat doch keine kurzen Haare. Ich verstehe das nicht. Naja. Ich gucke mal nachher, warum das so ist. Aber. So, das war's tatsächlich mit dem Part. Ich finde es unglaublich, ne? Manche, die hielten da durch, sind in einer Stunde fertig. Ich bin da jetzt, finde ich, auch durchgehietet. Ich habe einfach wieder 2 Stunden gelabert. Warum ist das so? Naja, auf jeden Fall. Ich hoffe, euch hat der Part gefallen. Und wir haben jetzt definitiv sehr viel in die Familiengeschichte einblicken können. Das hat gewissermaßen gut getan, weil wir jetzt Cove auch besser verstehen. Und er auf jeden Fall auch charaktertechnisch eine große Weiterentwicklung haben kann, beziehungsweise in dem kurzen Moment hatte. Und ja, freue mich auf jeden Fall schon auf die nächsten Momente, was dabei rumkommt. Vielleicht schaffe ich es dann auch, endlich mal ein bisschen länger da zu sein. Ach, mich nervt das so sehr, ne? Aber ja, danke fürs Dabeisein und bis zum nächsten Mal.